Yeah, films. We watched some films. Now let's talk about it.
We're going to be talking about Death Parade, which is from 2015, which will make you sad soon when you hear about the fact that there's no season 2. What is it about? After death, humans go to either heaven or hell, but for some, at the instant of their death, they arrive at the Quindecum, a bar attended by the mysterious white-haired Decum. Director Yuzuru Tachikawa. Cool. So, Death Parade is amazing and very sad.
Yeah.
And furthermore, is sad because there is only one season, and it is only an anime, so you can't even like read the manga to get more of the story and to keep going. Because like I had some questions. I was like about the higher ups and like the other arbiters that are in there. Like there's a lot of intricately woven characters and storylines happening over there. I'm like, what about? I want to know, and I don't get to know. So sadly, there isn't a second season as of right now, and it's really tragic and honestly the true horror story of this whole thing. There's been rumored that there would be a season 2 for years now. The studio Madhouse, which brought us Death Note, One Punch Man, Hunter x Hunter, and more, hasn't said that it like canceled the show, like it's not happening, but the second season has been TBD since 2016. It's now 2021. And we're like already in like the animation desert because people aren't working anymore. So who knows? So it's hard to really remain hopeful, which is, you know, the right mindset to watch this show anyway. But if there were to be a season 2, it's also hard to imagine what it'll cover exactly because there's no source material. Usually in anime that it's an adaptation of the manga, so like they kind of like, it's not always following the same story and they do their own things like we saw with Promise Neverland 2 season 2, but they do pull things from it as we saw with Promise Neverland 2 because it has all of those resources. Same thing with like Beastars.
Yeah. There's like something to pull from. It's like you get a vague idea of like where the story might go.
Yeah, there's not that for this because it was all just thought up by Tachikawa, who had this short film called Billiards, which is what this piece is actually based off of. I haven't watched Billiards, but I'm pretty interested in it. I think this is such an underrated show, and I think that's what the series is going to be, is like, you haven't watched this yet?
Get on it.
Although like everyone watched Squid Game, so hopefully it's like, you watch Squid Game, you must be interested in games with murder and the exploration of the human soul and who is good and who is bad and what do you do when you're back.
And this will scratch that itch.
Yes. So it's great. And as I said before, it really makes you feel for characters. Like, even though you're only going to see them for an episode or two, tops. And as we played in the beginning, the intro song is a bop. And will most likely be played at my wedding because it is a treasure.
I should, man.
So the synopsis for this program, I'll go through kind of like what's happening in it. Because there's a lot. And then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty, and then Kat will get into like philosophy, and you can ask yourself if you're a good person and you would deserve a second chance. It is a fun show, but it also explores some philosophical ideas that have you question your own goodness. In Death Parade, we follow Decum, who is a bartender and arbiter. He's this monotone, soft boy who holds these games for folks who've just died. Strangers, sometimes lovers, sometimes long-lost friends, arrive at the underworld bar and are forced to play this game. And the games can range from anywhere from darts, arcade games, and even Old Maid. Like, it's anything. There's even hinted in the intro, which is another reason why I'm like, it looks so fun. Everyone's having so much fun. The character, Nona, is playing DDR. I'm like, I don't know how that would work, but I want to see that happen. There's like a twister. There's a lot of really cool stuff. And so the people who are playing know that they have to play to win, and they're told that their lives are on the line. That if they don't, like, they're playing for their lives, essentially. That's all they're told. However, through the journey of the games, the person's true intent, who they were in the world, and whether they are worthy of a second chance are revealed. Throughout the game, like, tensions are running high, and you really don't know what to expect because they don't know what to expect. You're just meeting these characters for the first time. The show does a really great job of skewing our expectations of what is good, and really makes you ask the question of, like, what would you do to survive? Which is kind of the thesis for this series that we're doing. But the truth is, there's no heaven or hell that these people are going to. The participants are already dead. They're not gonna die at the end of the game. It's already happened. And they don't remember that they've died or what happened before the elevator doors open on Quindecum. The games do put their quote-unquote lives at risk, however, because even though there's no heaven or hell, there is the option of reincarnation or the eternal void. And you might be thinking, I never asked to be alive once. Why would I want to be alive again? And I get it. But the alternative, the void, is not only endless nothing, it's actually a place where you are just a soul without a body, forced to exist forever with only your sadness and pain and anger to keep you company. Like, you're literally just all these awful emotions for eternity. Alone.
Oh, yeah, that's
in the darkness. Yeah.
All right, yeah, and I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's like that, or like you have to do it again, which arguably both are not great. Like, they're like, you got to go over again. But these characters, through their exploration, tend to want to start over. The problem here is, like, people don't remember that stuff. You're not gonna I don't remember. If I had a past life, I don't remember it, so it's not helping me be a better person right now.
Yeah, you still have to, like, deal with the reality of what being a people is.
Yeah, I had to start from scratch, like, and be this person. So does everyone else. But it really, it sounded horrific to me, and worse than hell in some ways. And it makes you wonder what kind of awful person could warrant such a traumatic end, or continuation, I guess, because it's for eternity. Throughout the season, we're introduced to new people, these contestants who are to be tested. We only get an episode or two tops with them, and over the course of whatever game they're playing, we see pieces of who they were emerge. Each person, like people are to be, are complex. They have lived in a full life until their death. Even if it was short, they lived it. And it's full of life and experiences. They all have regrets. They all have people that they miss. They all have secrets. And they all want to continue living to some degree. Like, all of them wish that they could change something, or they want to go back for someone, or, they care about others. And it's really thrilling, like, because you're guessing whether these characters are reliable, what kind of life they led, will the darkest parts of their soul send them to the void. And I really love the flow and the exploration of morality in the show, but this part, specifically this idea of the darkness of the soul, didn't sit well with me. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of how one's morality is judged and their fate decided in Quindecum. So we're entering Spoiler Central. Spoiler Central, train leaving. So go watch the show. It's 12 episodes. It's on Hulu and Funimation. So super quick. And each episode's like 20 minutes. So watch it. Although it is weird to watch. The voice actors are really different when you're going sub to dub, just so you know.
Yeah.
But what you gotta do. But go watch it, pause, and then come back. So let's talk about the problem with arbiters. So arbiters, like Decum, are beings that are human-like in appearance, that host and manage the games. They're like a GM in an RPG. Where they set up a scenario, they generate challenges, and they calculate your outcomes from a distance of the playing, right? Like, they're not telling the story. They're simply helping the participants navigate the world to get to the story's end. And the arbiters have 3 rules. There's a 4th one that gets later revealed because of consequences, because of situations. But the 3 fundamental rules that supposedly exist for them are kind of like Asimov's laws for the robots,
Yeah.
right? Where, you know, so that they don't get out of line. It's kind of like that, like stick to your job. So number 1 is arbiters cannot quit making judgments, for that is the reason why they exist. So what is my purpose? To serve butter.
Yeah.
It's
they're
like,
aw.
it's like that. And then it's like, dang, really? That's it. This is what they do. But they also don't have emotions, so they don't care. Number 2, arbiters cannot experience death, for that would bring them too close to being human. So they're like eternal. 3, arbiters cannot feel emotion, for they are merely puppets. There's emotionless puppets who get to decide if you're going to be a baby again or in an eternal void of pain and sorrow. So
Yeah.
fun.
I guess the argument is they're objective, and it's not.
yeah. I'm like, oh. The show's through line story, like the background storyline, really seeks to explore this puzzle of who the arbiters are and what gives them the right to do this and if this is right. It's this question of like, can beings that do not have emotion, have not lived, and so then cannot truly understand the impact of death, judge the lives of humans? It's like, oh, you'll be human if you experience death. But you also don't understand what death is and why people would do what they do to not do death.
Yeah, you can't really judge if someone's good if you don't have like a context. Because it's so subjective that it's not, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, there's too many variables that you're not getting. You're not putting in, like, the emotions, that's the biggest variable. And you're not...
You don't understand like the complexities of like the human mind.
Yeah. And just like of life. Because you like, and it's a question that happens a lot in the show is like, do we even know what life is? Like, we've never had life because we don't know what death is. And so like they're like, Nona has that whole thing, which is why she kind of stirs it up because she's like, something ain't right here. Deckham has a new assistant to help him with his judgments. It is the dark-haired woman who cannot remember her name. Yeah. And it is later revealed that she is named Chiyuki and is a human that Deckham previously failed to judge. So he's given more time with her to figure it out. But Deckham also has emotions, which is why he didn't know what he was doing, and why she has such an impact on him versus like some of the other arbiters that you see in the show who are like, I don't get it.
Yeah, like they're really
just send
detached
them to the void. I don't care, which is a problem. It's like, this is like iRobot, okay? With her alongside him, he's shown honestly how barbaric and cold the method to which these judgments are made can be, that they're flawed. The arbiters have this like device that they use to further agitate and stress the players. Some of the so they can like push it to like cause a disturbance so that now they're stressed. There's also sometimes like time limits that weren't previously explained, and then as soon as you cross them, it's like, haha, now it's harder. Or sometimes they're just outright inflict pain by having the whatever pieces of the game resemble body parts, and so when you do things with them, now you hurt. So like there's like a game with darts. And when they threw the dart, it would hit like a body part on the chart, and that would cause pain for the other person. Which is just, and all of that, like the agitation and the like behind the scenes pulling of all these strings are with the intent to bring out the darkness of the soul so they can judge the human's true nature. Which is stupid. So let's talk about the darkness of the soul and why I have a problem with it and why morality is honestly a gray area. So in an article on Kotaku titled Death Parade is About Life, Death, and the Darkness of the Human Heart by Richard Isenbees. I hope I said your name right. The writer asks, is it right to judge people not at their best, but at their worst? Great question. And Deckham and the other arbiters are tasked with judging the darkest parts of people, while they themselves lack the full understanding and depth of human emotion and experiences, because they're not allowed. So you're putting people through their paces, and then you're looking at it and you're like, it looks like they're upset. Like, and so the point
weird,
where, like,
you know,
one of the arbiters like ends up keeping a human for a little bit because he just can't understand why she does what she does, because he just doesn't understand the complexity of people. He's like, why wouldn't A plus B equals C? Like, when did we get over here? So when it's revealed that Decim can feel emotions, which is an experiment by Nona, it's a catalyst for Decim's minor rebellions and later his emotional breakdown, because they can't have emotions. So Eisenbeast goes on to say, it's clear from the start that there are some serious flaws in said system. Despite being granted a portion of their guests' memories as part of the game, the Arbiters are nonetheless left unable to digest the data in any but the most objective, i.e. emotionless, way. And as the games only bring out the darkest emotional parts of people, this can lead to incorrect judgments. Which is super true.
Yeah.
And I disagree with most of the judgments that are made in the show. Because humans are complex. None of us are all good or all bad. We're a plethora of experiences, emotions, and desires. Just a big old bag of them. Yeah. And throughout our lives, we're put through challenges that can alter who we are. In fact, we see in the show how a certain traumatic event can turn a hero, or supposed hero, into a villain. And honestly, like the worst villain in the show, I feel like. Besides that one Arbiter. I think he's a pretty bad villain. And we see how love can influence us to do reckless, hopeless things, such as lying to relieve someone of pain, even if that results in your own soul being banished to the void. Yeah. Because you want to protect someone you love, even though it's no fault of your own that they're hurting. Yeah. In an article on /film titled Death Parade is a bloody anime version of The Good Place by Rafael Motomayor, they go on to explain how the conditions these games are in negatively impacts the intended neutral effect the Arbiters are setting out to accomplish. The question then becomes, how can anyone properly pass judgment upon others without empathy? The Arbiters believe their lack of emotions make them fit to do their job, but the games start resembling torture sessions as the show goes on, with the character questioning whether the Arbiters are really revealing the darkness inside the guests or simply creating it. Valid. I have an issue with the tests of judgment, and everyone else should as well, because it's a problem. Obviously, that's the whole point of the show. My problem is them being conducted after death, and that they're not an accumulation of your experiences in life, as if your entire life meant nothing. Yeah, like it everything
really seemed like it wasn't, like they didn't take that into account enough, the memories.
Yeah. It's like, it kind of tells you, but you don't remember anything, so you can't even make entirely accurate decisions.
You don't remember the things that shaped who you are. Exactly. Like, so you don't have that knowledge to help like really accurately showcase the person you like became through just living.
Yeah. And like, people aren't like just one event, or like you can't just clean slate people and then they are who they are. No, you are what has happened to you. You are what you have done when things have happened to you. Like, yeah. At least with Christianity, you get some like redos, or at the very least you got just like a dude up there looking over the book of your life to make judgments, and you're like, I can't argue with that. Like, I see the part that you highlighted, and that was a dark part of my life, but it is valid and it is something that happened. Like, but what about this part over here? Like, you know, like at least I could be up there and argue a case. But you put one stressful time and you're like, this is it. Exempt from anything I've ever done. So it's like, imagine you're being put under extreme stress. Your life is on the line, and whatever you do in that moment determines whether you go to an endless torturous void. I don't know about you, but I've had some terrible, no good, very bad days. And to be judged for just one of those would be insanity. Like, I've had dark times. I've had things that I've done and I regret, and I would hate for that to be the one thing. Like, I've never done murder. That I get. Murder, you can judge me for. Like, what? So to reduce the human experience to a singular, manipulated event is flawed and problematic. I would argue that Death Parade is not the good place, because in the good place, the people are judged by their lives. And they're like, there's obviously that rating system, and it's also flawed. And like
Yeah.
that's the exploration of like what is morality, because it's judging like your individual actions and the motivations for those actions.
Yeah.
Totally applicable. That's not happening here. So with that, it's like what you lived and through like the issues that you've gone through help you consider what is good. But in Death Parade, you are only ever the worst parts of yourself.
Yeah.
So Motomayor in that article goes on in their piece to say, despite your actions, the show's ultimate question isn't about reward for living a good life or punishment for the sins we commit. Instead, it's a show about the question of, is life worth living? And furthermore, it's about how desperate we all are to go back and do it again. Like, even though we're like, oh, I don't want to live again, you do. Because the trick here is if you want it, like you're leaving behind people that you care about. And most of the people who died, even the people who unalived themselves, have regrets and wish that they could change that or realize there are people who cared about them. And with that knowledge, they can go, and if you keep the knowledge, can be better people. But that's not happening here.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. So I think the trick here is if you want life too much, then you're doomed as well. Because like we see that in with one of the characters who has done nothing but fight her entire life to live and just exist and not let people treat her like trash. And she's not a great person, but who would be after the life she lived? So she continues to want to do that. And she put up against someone who had the complete opposite. Yeah. And she is the one who meets her void-driven demise in Quindecum. That, to me, is crazy. I think neither one of them deserved it, but, like, her downfall was that she wanted to live so badly that it made her bad. And I'm like, what is the point of this? Why wouldn't you want people who want to live to go live again?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's fair.
Many of the decisions angered me. Frankly, all but one of the people who came through deserve to go to the void, in my opinion. That's it. Everyone else, I'm like, nah, I think they're good. Put them back. Literally just one, and he was awful. And with that person, it was clear that his life traumas had so greatly affected his outlook on life that it then influenced how he was acting in the Afterlife bar, and like he was irredeemable. That like he was just like it corrupted him. Yeah, his soul was wonky at that point. He just like went all the way over there. Everyone else has a minute. I think like it's on the surface. Obviously, the arbiters are missing out on human emotion, but there's also this they're missing out on human connection as well. Like they're missing out on like what other people mean to us, and that we're not solitary beings. Like we saw what happens when you're solitary and you're not looking at the people that around you. That was the first unalive person we got. Like, and so it's like they're missing so much of the human experience by just not having any of it. So like, how can you judge us? And honestly, every single one was a tough decision, like to watch and to think to myself, like at the end of the day, like I really just couldn't figure out what it is I would have done in those situations. And like throughout, this series, like, I might throw around like, oh, I'd do this and I'd try to solve this puzzle, whatever. Like these, I was like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm like all of a sudden remembering my feelings and I'm trying to remember and I'm dead and like, what do I do? But like, there's a lot to unpack and you're not really giving me time and you're putting me under a lot of stress and you're telling me it has to be the darkness of my soul. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to go home. I want to not. So the last piece of it is it really horror? And 100%, like the topic itself is horrifying. But you're like, is it horror? And I think so. I think the first game of darts where it has like the participants throwing the darts and then it causes them pain. There's like the comedic kind of episode, but they're like bowling balls and there's the heart. There's the heart, and he puts his finger in there, and it's like he can feel the girl's heart, and he's like, she's so warm inside. And I was like, no. It's like, no, sir. We're not doing that today. Yep. There are these hideous and unsettling mannequins that represent the people who've come through Quindecum that Decum doesn't even remember. So they're nothing. They're just glamour. And then there's the disgusting former leader, Oculus, who has this flower goatee and ponytail that unravels and suctions onto people's faces and like absorbs their memories or something. And he like, he like blossom it. And one part, one of his lines was like, "You made my flower shrivel." And I was like, stop. It's like, you canceled, you need to leave. You need to go. I want him dead. Like, if there's a season 2, he's gone. Like, Nona kills him in his sleep. I don't know. Whatever it is. Yeah. It's horror. And, like, not even to mention the understanding of the void, the fact that people are dead, and that some of the people even committed murder or were murdered, or both. Yeah. Like, it's full of horror.
A little column A, a little column B.
Sometimes it's like overlapping Venn diagram here. Yeah. So horrifying. Like, dude, the flower, that was like, I can't. He said my flower shriveled. I was like, get up.
You're canceled. You need to go away now.
It's enough of you. That's enough out of you.
Oh my God. It's so real. I mean, the show is just so cool. Like, in concept, in a lot of ways. Like, it's like, whoa, you're doing a lot. And it is extremely stressful. And I agree with you. It's definitely horror in like the way that these things are proposed. And I would argue the reason that the arbiters can't feel emotion is not because they're puppets, but because the reality and the weight of what their actions would mean and how that would impact them would be so heavy.
That's so real.
Like I feel like they would all quit if they had the ability to feel emotions. And I think that's something Nona just like didn't comprehend, like the damage.
She like broke him.
Yeah, like you can't judge, like arguably we are not, like you cannot judge, you can't be the judge and executioner. That's not something that like people can cope with and not turn out horrible from, because not the act in of itself is a trauma, you know, like it is a horrific and traumatic experience. So I would argue that's more probably why they don't want them to feel emotions, because you can't, like, how can you just do tomorrow knowing the like full back emotional reality of the stressful situation that you literally just canceled them forever? Like,
it's a Monday.
Yeah. And it's like, that was so traumatic for me. It's like, why didn't I remember it? Because it was a Wednesday for you.
Very true. But it's also like like, who do you become when you're doing that every day? Yeah. And then at some point you're going to be swayed because that trauma is going to build up. And now it's like, you're going to try to let everyone reincarnate, and we're going to have overpopulation.
You're going to be the guy who needed to be sent to the void, but now you're the one making the decisions forever.
Yeah, true. True.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, because he says that. He was like, you're him. You're the same person. And I was like, yeah. Which is like, it is. So
it's so stressed.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm broken. You broke my brain.